Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are skipping the intro this morning. We're jumping right in. Michelle is not here, and I just realized I did it in the wrong order. So she's probably listening and just laughing about my struggles on the board. I've always said when she's not around, there's a lot of the stuff that she does that I can do it. I won't do it as well as she does it, but we'll figure it out as we go. She's got a family situation this morning, family emergency, health matter. Everybody seems to be fine, but needs some attention. So she's away, and so we're here this morning to talk about the our subject for today is implementation. And in particular, we want to talk about, as we close out the first quarter, step into the second quarter, what's keeping us from being able to implement those things in our business that we know we want to improve. So we're certainly going to spend some time talking about that today. And then we also have a couple of announcements. We've got on Thursday, we're doing the first Dealer Action Forum. And this one's going to be an interesting thing for me. We're going to invite everybody, anybody and everybody. This basically will happen Thursday in the same time slot that we do our morning show. And we're really taking on subjects for dealers, one thing at a time. Going to focus first on software DMS reports. And we're just going to, not move into the next thing until we've kind of created an action plan for the first one, which obviously kind of ties into what we're talking about this morning. How do we take action, solve problems, put them to bed, and then move on to the next thing? So again, that's what Thursday is about. We would invite you to join us for that. And everybody's welcome. Industry folks, vendors, dealers, even managers, you guys are welcome in there. We're going to just talk about what needs to be done to improve these things. And so I'm taking on one particular report that's been a frustration for me for some time. So we'll be digging into that on Thursday morning. So look for that invitation. Again, you can find it right here. Most of the channels that we broadcast, you'll be able to find that. It's very much a public forum. Everybody's welcome. So now the other big event is kind of on the horizon. I would ask everybody to save the date for July 20th. We set the date for our next all-day live stream, and that will be on the subject of deal structure. So we're going to dig in deep. Like, we're going to ask people to bring the raw numbers, and we're going to, let them interpret the numbers with us on the screen. Kind of already got the sections figured out of what kind of subtopics we want to have within that day. So it should be really rich. And it's an opportunity for us to take our virtual platform through the Nation TV and just be able to bring all the people together, and let's find out some real stuff so we can help dealers get better answers, for some of the stuff that they're dealing with. So that's part of what we're working through. Good morning, Arizona. Shelly in Texas. Happy to see you here this morning. So we're just, again, for today, Michelle, for those just joining in, Michelle is away. And so you're stuck with me this morning. And so we want to talk about implementation. And this is something, as a consultant, I've done, and some of you have joined us in the past. We did Management Mondays, and we talked about some of these things, but I really want to help dealers figure out how to transition to the place where they can start to chip away some of these things and identify the things that keep them from being able to follow through on some of the initiatives, objectives, goals, plans, certainly a part of the business plan. I just got to jump over here and show you one quick thing. I think, see if I can do this right. We can get this shown where I can show you the outside view and let you have a look at kind of what's happening outside. So we got a ton of snow. So obviously we got, it snowed again last night. It's supposed to snow all day and tomorrow for the most part. So excited to shovel the snow some more, right? So no, we're looking forward to spring over here. But anyway, on our implementation thing, I think the key thing there is just to know, how do we identify the things that are priority? Let's just put the things at the top of the list. Let's not focus on the minutia and the details. Let's figure out, how do we take on something? If we identified our top three, and within those we identified the first thing we want to take on, then I would just ask dealers to think about, how do we follow through? It's just a simple thing about how do we implement the thing and get it in place. And I would say after we did our all day live stream, one of the things that came up with some of our expert guests is we were able to affirm that sometimes what happens is we just don't have good solutions on accountability. So the other thing that came up on our live stream, Steve Taylor, who's the director of acquisitions for America's Car Mart, was kind enough to share that, as a former dealer and a 20 group member, he's not the first, by the way, to share this, that, you go to 20 group meeting, you get all energized, you spend 3 days, and you decide after looking at the composite, yeah, this is definitely something I need to fix. I want to go back and work on it. We go back to the dealership with all kinds of enthusiasm. And we say, let's fix this. Let's focus on this. Let's get our team together and let's work on this. And the team kind of groans. It's like, oh boy, it's back from another 20 group meeting, he or she. And so there's sort of this groan and, it's, we're changing more stuff. And obviously human beings are resistant to change. And so we are not surprised then to see that there's some inability to implement the things that we said were a priority. So let's break that down. Like, what keeps us from being able to do that? My thought would be on the flight back from the 20 group meeting, before you announce any kind of thing that you want to take on, think first about what's success look like? How important is it to you? Don't announce it unless you really are prepared to follow through on it, because when we announce it and then don't follow through, that kind of makes matters worse the next time around. So let's decide what is the real priority, what is going to be the accountability, and what is going to be the method for implementation. So when I say accountability, it doesn't have to be super punitive. It doesn't mean that you have to write people up just because they didn't do the job that was established, but we basically need to make sure that we've got a method ourselves to demonstrate to our team that we are committed to this, we are following through, we are going to continue to march forward, and we're going to hopefully inspire them to join us in solving the thing. Because one of the things we know is that we certainly better solve problems with a team. And so we need them on board, but we lose them when we verbally say we're going to follow through on something, verbally say this is something I want to fix, and then the team sees that wasn't really a thing. The dealer's excited about it today, but tomorrow they'll be back to buying cars and they'll forget all about it. And we can go back to doing what we've always done. Right. So let's break that down, because, Michelle and I, as coaches, we started to shift to a place where we actually deliberately quit referring to ourselves as consultants and started to refer to ourselves as coaching and implementation solutions, because that is part of what we see is the real problem. A lot of times when we meet dealers, it's not that they don't know what to do. It's, sometimes obviously we're coming in with an outside perspective, and sometimes we're able to offer them a viewpoint that, is unique. There's that thing about can't see the forest for the trees. If you're in the trees, it's sometimes hard to realize where you are. And so we're sometimes able to give perspective from outside that offers a dealer a new look, new perspective, and maybe choose a different course to solve a problem. But I would say that regardless, often the dealer knows what needs to be done. They're just struggling to figure out how to get to where they want to be. So again, the first order of business for me is just identify what is the thing, and let's don't pick too many. Let's focus on one at a time, and let's make sure that we follow through. The other thing we know is that just from human psychology is that, and you hear different numbers. I hear, certainly it's a matter of weeks. In the past, I've heard as much as 90. I think it's a minimum of 45 days that it takes a human being to establish a new habit. Well, think about what we know from New Year's resolutions, fitness at the first of the year. What happens with people who step into that? And I've always said over the years in my own struggles with that, it's like, for me, the thing was just showing up, right? Just like, even if I go to the gym, get up at 6:30 in the morning, go to the gym, and I'm on a treadmill for 5 minutes, that still is habit building, right? It's about taking steps toward a new practice following through. I could have come up with plenty of reasons not to go that day. And I think that's the nature of managing a buy here, pay here operation is, we talked about it during our live stream, or maybe it was Friday's follow up. We talked about, dealers have a lot of balls to keep in the air. I always say that buy here, pay here's got these challenges, got all these different departments and all these moving pieces. And so it's just the nature of our business that dealers would find themselves distracted. And, if it's not inventory, it's a collections matter, it's a repo matter, it's, the accountant's calling and we got tax stuff to think about. And so, that's part of the business, right? So because that's true, and also because of the retail, yes, we're not traditional retail used car sales, but we are a retail establishment in that our doors are open during business hours. Because of that, we never know what situation is going to walk through the door next, which makes it even more difficult sometimes to manage in terms of budgeting our time, managing our day. But if you're the dealer principal and you declare a commitment and you declare a priority, then especially if that priority is about working on your business instead of being in the business, then I would say as a dealer principal, we got to find solutions. We got to find ways to allow us to resist the distraction and recognize it, know that that's something that certainly needs to be attended to, but do I really need to drop what I'm doing and go address that matter right away? If so, it might be an indication, obviously, of a management thing. We got somebody doesn't have the authority to solve a problem, doesn't have the initiative and the gumption to go ahead and step forward and solve a problem. But that's something we can deal with, after our meeting, after our priority. And I would say, we know, with using fitness as an example again, we know that it often works better to have an accountability partner. In the past, works great for me. If I got a workout partner and I know they're going to show up at my door at 7:30, on Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to be ready. I'm accountable to that person. I'm responsible. I've got to make sure that I do my part, and vice versa. If I'm picking them up, I expect they'll be a good partner and they'll do their part and they'll show up and we'll get to the gym together and we'll get a routine going. So to that end, for managing a buy here, pay here operation, I would say one of the things we can do is let's find an accountability partner. And that doesn't have to be our general manager. It doesn't even have to be our office manager. We talked about in our live stream, and if you guys missed it, you're going to want to write down otter.ai, AI like artificial intelligence, otter.ai. Download the app, record your stuff. It'll transcribe it as you record it. Now you've got written material that's basically taking your recordings and transitioning, into written material. So why is that important? Well, because when we take the time to document this stuff, it's really just a matter of, what do we do? If we have a real legitimate corporate management meeting, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to record minutes, right? Or somebody's going to record the stuff, create the takeaways and, what are the action items from the meeting? That's what Otter can do for us. And we can have a person there who, when I say an accountability partner, they can be an administrative person. They can be somebody who's there to take notes. But as much as anything, they're there to make sure that meeting happens on Tuesday and Thursday at 10:30 or whatever that schedule is going to look like, so that we show up and that time is allocated to work on whatever that thing is. So, that'll vary obviously from operation to operation. What is my priority today? What am I setting out to implement? We meet a lot of dealers who just don't even use Google Calendar. They're just, we can send them a calendar invite and they don't know where to find it. They don't know where to find the meeting link. And that's okay. Like we're dealers for a reason. We're good at what we're good at. We're not going to be good at everything. And I think it's especially true in buy here, pay here. We got all these different things we got to do. We're not going to be good at all of them. That's okay. But certainly we got to learn stuff like Google Calendar or whatever other calendar solution that we're going to work from, so that we can set a routine. And again, probably at least 45 days. So we're talking about 6 or 7 weeks. We got to show up for that thing, and do the best we can when we show up, not to allow ourselves to be distracted Don't take the phone call. Put your cell phone in do not disturb. Let the folks know outside the office that you're going to be in a powwow for 90 minutes and take messages. And as dealers, sometimes we live in this kind of impulsive world, right? We have all these everything is right now, and it's quick action. But where we have to resist that, we have to just be prepared to say, that's not something, at least for the next 90 minutes, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna chase the shiny thing, as Michelle's always talking about squirrel chasing, right? So we're gonna resist the temptation to chase that squirrel. We're gonna take a message. We're gonna ignore that incoming phone call. We're gonna focus on what we got to focus on. And, I talked about it back when we did our Management Monday. I forget what month that was, but if you do a search in our YouTube channel for Management Monday, you can find we did 5 Mondays and kind of touched on a lot of these tips months ago. And one of the things I talked about was back when I started doing consulting, I was just a green PE consultant. I had a couple of years of management experience and had some success as a manager, but most of the dealers I was working with knew the buy here, pay here business better than I did. They certainly knew their business at that point better than I did. I was learning their business, and wasn't very long before I knew their numbers better than they knew them. But really, what I realized I could be for them was an accountability partner. And I could show up for a once a week meeting, and I could help them identify what was the priority. So I'm just going to ask you, let's just imagine that we're having one of those meetings, and you're my dealer client this morning. And I'm going to ask you, look at your list. We're sitting here talking about this on a Monday morning. What's your list got? Delinquency problem? Or we got aging inventory? What's our priority? So you can chase them all, but pick one. What's the one that you want to improve? And how can we follow through on that? So the way I did it as a young consultant is I captured the numbers. I said, okay, let's we want to improve our delinquency. We're running 28% delinquency. We've been averaging in the upper 20s for weeks. Where do you want to be? I'd like to see, we used to run 15% on on a Saturday morning or whatever. I want to see us run 15%. Okay, well then let's target that. Some of you are hearing these numbers and thinking I'm crazy. Like, that sounds high to some of you. Whatever the number is, it's like the point is, let's set a target. So let's break it down. Okay, X number of accounts this week is 28%. What would it take to let's set a target going into next week? We haven't seen 22% in 8 weeks. Why don't we set a target for 22%? And let's calculate right now, how many accounts do we need to remove from the past due list? We can identify the charge-offs. We can identify who we can charge off, and we need to keep X number from coming on the list. And we need to address these other accounts. We will need to be at X number of accounts to be at 22% going into next Monday. So everybody agrees, yeah, that would solve it. Let's move to 22%. So that week, everybody's super focused on this is what we got to do. I got to save these charge-offs. I got to take these charge-offs. I got to solve this particular account matter. I got to keep customers from coming on the list. We talk about how to do that. And lo and behold, next week, we closed at 22%. Or if we didn't, we talked about, oh man, we came up 2 accounts short. How do we solve that? Okay, so the goal next week again is 22%. Let's break it down again. How do we need to get there? And I think you begin to see what happened. We just began to chip away. And what I began to see, this is 20 years ago. I started doing consulting in the fall of 2000. So we're talking about late 2000, early 2001. And we're seeing dealers who had been on this program for years. And their numbers looked the same. They were kind of plateaued. So all I really did was just show up and say, let's fix it. Let's pick one. Let's take bite sizes. Let's fix it. Okay. And so I don't need to be in your dealership, and I don't need to be in your Monday management meeting for you to do this yourself. Start taking bite-sized pieces, focus on it, follow through. If I can't be your accountability partner to be in your Monday meeting, let's find somebody who can. Okay. And they're just going to show up, and they're going to help break down the stuff. They're going to remind everybody what the objective was. We're going to renew that commitment to that objective each week. And it's going to take some weeks. It's going to take 6, 8, 10 weeks, whatever it takes is what it takes. But at least by that time we get there, we're able to, you know, start to see some progress. And now our team can see progress and they start to buy into the things that are happening and they recognize this is how we solve problems as a management team, right? We identify it, we break it down, we chip away. If we stumble this week, we get right back on, we figure out what we missed, we double our efforts and we go toward solving it. And we recognize it doesn't mean, by the way, that we totally neglect other departments. This is why we need enough people on our team to be able to work on their own stuff. But in reality, we just know that this is part of how we start to make progress. And so, this is just management level, but it's more than that. It's day to day management. I know, many people in my career, and Michelle's a big fan. I've seen a lot of material from James Clear. We talk about atomic habits and habit stacking, how to create. So what do I mean by that? So the premise of the idea of the book is you stack habits together. If you have a routine now and you're pretty darn regimented about, coffee 5 days a week at 7 a.m. or whatever that looks like, or, always go and meet my buddy for coffee and been doing that a long time. If that's a routine that is established for you, like you've done the 6 weeks and it's a pattern and it's established, then try to build other practices and habits around those things that are entrenched. And you'll find that you're able to better follow through on that just by adding one little step to something that you're already in a routine with. Sometimes, with management, that's not going to be so easy. So I would say, just we got to just put it on the calendar. So however you're going to manage your calendar, and that may be the first item that goes on the list is, at first I can't work from a calendar until I just get a calendar practice established, because I was there. Like there was a long time for me in my career that I didn't really work well from a calendar. Now Michelle's helped me and I've developed my own practices. And so now I'm able to kind of, develop that and it helps, but it's like, whatever that solution is for you, if that's Google Calendar or, there's all kinds of ways to set reminders on a phone or whatever that needs to look like for you. But we all know it's possible to ignore reminders. It's possible to ignore the alarm clock. So the question becomes, how will you be able to follow through on the thing? And if you don't, then I would just say, truth is, must not be that important to you. I think we just have to own that and just say, I'm not willing to give an hour and a half a week to it. So it's apparently just not that important to me. So this is where we just have to get real with ourselves and just say, do I want it? I apparently don't want it. Apparently it doesn't matter enough to me. So let's quit talking about it. So, this is the thing that my clients will hear me sometimes say is like, look, as a consultant advisor and kind of accountability partner, one of the things with me is, if you hired me as a consultant, and I'm not asking you to, because I'm not sure that Michelle and I can take on much right now, but if you did, one of the things that I would be trying to do is to help move the conversation. What clients have heard me say is, I don't want to be having the same conversation in 4 weeks. This is a thing. It's been a thing in your organization for a time, as you've told me. How do we move the needle? How do we change the conversation? What needs to happen to make sure that we're not still talking about this in 4 weeks' time? So for us, it was kind of weekly meeting rhythm. Okay. So I would challenge you to do the same thing. You do the same thing for yourself. If it's important to you, prove to yourself. You don't have to prove it to me. Prove it to yourself that it's important to you. And the way you do that is by showing up Tuesday morning at 10:30. No excuses. You're not going to say, I gotta deal with some auction, CSI, whatever. I got to deal with some stuff over there, some buybacks or whatever. It can wait. And so if it can wait if the thing that you put on the calendar is important to you. If not, then quit telling yourself and quit beating yourself up because it's not done, because in reality, it just didn't prove to be that important to you. And I would say this is a challenge of any 20 group. You can go to 20 group meetings And, your moderator can't come back to the dealership with you and meet with you every week. Neither can your other 20 group members because they're all busy doing other stuff. So when you go to 20 group 3 times a year and you come away with this stuff saying, yeah, I definitely want to strive to get my inventory turn more efficient, like, Joe from Pennsylvania. Okay. So is it really important? Is it really going to make that much difference in my business? So let's visualize what success looks like with that. Think about it on the flight back. What does success look like? What will need to happen in order to move from here to there? And then think about, okay, what's accountability going to look like? And then you got to show up and you got to have your management team see that, oh, Bob is she's committed on this. Like, so usually bring it up in week 1. Maybe it still comes up in week 2. By week 3, we've forgotten about it. And we're back to doing what we always do. So it's up to us as the dealer principal to say, this is going to be different. I'm going to put it on a calendar. I'm going to follow through during the week. I'm going to make sure and do my job to support the people that I'm asking to do the thing. And you're going to start to see progress. But I'm telling you, that deal about 6, 8, 10 weeks, that's where it's at. We got to be able to follow through. So if you look at your own, first quarter commitments, if you just close the first quarter and you're not there, it's okay. You can get back on track. It's just that if you step back into the same practice that you used before, what would you expect that your team would see in that? Oh, we're just, we're trying again, but didn't work before. Why would we think it would work this time? Got to be different. It's got to show commitment, got to be prepared to follow through. And so I would say that's the biggest, if I could send you home with a takeaway today, it's like, find a way to make the routine real. Even if you show up every Tuesday morning, and some Tuesday mornings are not as productive, there's no progress. Show up again next Tuesday. Try again. Keep chipping away until you've turned the corner, because what'll make us fail in that is giving up, right? Just stepping away from it. And so this is where I say, once your team members start, and obviously we could spend another entire session talking about delegating the work at hand. And so that's really just something that, we're aware that, we see that that's something that people struggle with. And so just be aware that that's something that you can solve that problem. We just need to make sure that we're in a position to decide for sure what is the priority. Don't announce it until you're ready to follow through on it. And then be sure that you have got the schedule and the decision about accountability. How are you going to hold people accountable to the thing that you've announced? And now your team will start to buy in when they see that, oh, the dealer is committed to this. We are going to show up again. The dealer does expect us to be at the meeting next Tuesday at 10:30 again and again. And now we're going to, because we know that when we get our team together and we all focus on this one thing, we know we can fix it, right? If you can't, then that's a different problem. Maybe then you should call me or Bill Elizondo or somebody, and let's start to talk about what, if our team can't fix it, then maybe that's something else, and maybe you need to look at it from outside. But we just think you'll be able to start to implement these things. And so just be prepared. Like I said, just commit, don't announce, and then just hold folks accountable and support them. And I think you'll start to see progress, even if it takes some weeks. So let's wrap up there. We appreciate everybody making time to join in. Just don't forget this Thursday, 11 Eastern, we're going to have our first Dealer Action Forum. We're going to take on principal activity reconciliation. So that report, what I'm asking dealers to look at with me is a report that basically says this was all of the activity that moved in our primary portfolio principal in the given range of time. And so ideally that's going to be a calendar month. So when you join us on Thursday, I'm going to have a sheet mapped out that shows this is what I'm going to ask the DMS providers to provide on your behalf as a dealer. That'll also hopefully help your accounting people. but it's basically just meant to say, let's at least summarize the, because I can tell you that, Amanda Sanchez and I did a presentation at the BHPH Super Forum. We talked about this matter of reconciling receivables to cash. Well, to me, that starts with reconciling principal, the primary principal balance in the portfolio. And so I'm going to ask the DMS providers, I'm going to ask dealers, vendors to give me some feedback on what's that report need to look like. And then we're going to march forward with asking the DMS providers to supply that report to all users. And so this is how an action forum looks in our mind. And this is why this is an example of us following through. We're going to start showing up on Thursday mornings, and we're going to start, taking steps, bite-sized pieces, one piece at a time. We're going to start to tackle these things. And lo and behold, we'll look up and things will be better next week and next month than they are today. And that's what it's all about for me. So again, thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate you hanging in with Michelle and me. We'll look for you for White Hat Wednesday on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, look for that dealer forum. So again, thanks for tuning in.